Bang! Neeves Knives. I'm Jared, my lovely wife Kara's chilling, and today we're checking out the Microtech Combat Troodan. First up, I just want to say that I just got this Artisan Sea Snake in, designed by Mike Emler. This one's mine, and I'm going to really get to test out that AARPM9 steel, so watch for the update on that. I did do a review on this knife, so awesome little knife. That AARPM9 is Artisan's new steel, so it's a powdered steel. Let's get into this Microtech. So this Microtech was sent to me to review by the Shadow Man. Thanks again, bud. He's a huge supporter of our channel, and we can't thank him enough. And this was the first time I got my hands on a Troodan. I am definitely impressed, but just like all knives, we got to go through the good and the bad. So let's go to the specs first. So this is not a small knife. Without the glass breaker, it's 9 inches. The blade length is 3.75, so 3 3/4 inch long. Let's do some really quick size comparisons. Here is the Hinder XM18 Wharncliffe. Here is the Manix 2 XL. The Manix 2 XL is about even with it. Here is the Hogue Ritter, also the same size as the Benchmade Griptilian. And the Kershaw Bare Knuckle. Both smaller than it. And then here is the Cold Steel Code 4. Very close, but still a little bit smaller. And here is the Recon 1 by Cold Steel also, which is actually a little bit longer than it. So let's get into this good and bad review. So first off, the blade steel is 204, I don't know if it'll show up, 204P, which is the same thing as 20CV and M390. This one is serrated, but they come in lots of different blade shapes, which is really cool. So you can pretty much get it how you want. They have double edge, drop points. They even got Tontos. They got all different kinds. But, you know, I was kind of wondering about these serrations, how useful they would be. And surprisingly, pretty useful. I mean, I did use it. And even with little draw cuts, let's put this over the top of this right here. Even like with draw cuts, it'll get caught right behind that serration right there, and you can actually use it really good to slice things open. And then the tip right here, it does give you an edge that you can also use pretty handily. I mean, it works really good. So you can definitely cut packages open, you know, cut rope. It'll work terrific on rope, straps, you know, so on and so forth. And then the obvious thing, you know, whatever you do with your knife, you know, if you have to defend yourself. It also has a glass breaker on the back side that I don't doubt works very well. Deep carry pocket clip. This is aluminum, this handle. And then this is this is a drop point blade. It is a flat ground blade. Everything's made in the US from Microtech. If you were gonna sharpen this, it's actually a lot easier than people think. People, you know, tend to think that you have to sharpen this. If you keep up with this back side of the stone by just laying it flat on a sharpening stone, you can keep up with these serrations very easily. A lot easier than people tend to think. Now, this is all proprietary hardware, so you do have to send it in or get their tool, one or the other, which I recommend just setting this one in. You know, you see the birth date on this thing. It does have jimping in a lot of great spots. let's get into this blade geometry really quick, and then we'll get into the action. So up here at the tip, it's about 20 thousandths thick. Now the blade stock isn't really thick, so it's actually just a nice sturdy blade stock thickness. This is definitely a good blade stock thickness for slicing. Behind the edge, behind the serration, so that's pretty far up the blade, is about 25,000. So really not too bad. Now, this finish, it seems like it's holding up really good. I know you see the cuts that I just put in it, but that'll actually wipe right off. This is a DLC coating, and it seems like it's holding up pretty good. I can't say how good, it'll hold up after some really hard use. I can't say how good it'll hold up after a bunch of really hard use, but, it seems to be holding up just fine for me. For the light duty use I've been doing with it, just opening up a couple boxes here and there and, just carrying it around. The action. The button has, oh yeah, also you see the holes right there. I didn't think I need to say that. But the action. The button definitely has, you definitely got to put some pressure. It's not going to just go off in your pocket. You see how far I'm pulling it down. That takes a good amount of pressure. Now, if I hold it up here, I can barely even close it like it takes that much pressure. I mean, I can do it, but it's almost better for you to be back a little bit so you have the full strength of your thumb to basically take your hand and kind of shift, where you can actually use your fingers to, so like when I deploy it, see I'm pushing, so I'm using my fingers to push like this. Then on the return, I'm gripping down here, using this nice sharp grippy jimping right there, and I'm pulling back, and then I'm basically taking my 4 fingers and pushing up this way just a little bit, and it gives me that extra strength that I need. Now, after flicking it back and forth a bunch of times, it does start breaking in a little bit easier. But at first, it was definitely pretty tight to deploy. Now, the clip, but the action is great. This thing smacks out with authority, very powerful, very strong. Now you see right there, I had to back up a little bit, but very, very powerful. Now, if it does deploy, it's not going to kill you. It'll just stop the blade. Hold on, let me. So like right there, and then you just pull it, relock it back out, and it's back ready for action. So that is just a myth. It's not going to kill you if it does deploy. It'll poke you. It'll poke you pretty good. I mean, I'm sure it poked my phone pretty good just now. But, but yeah, the action is very powerful and very, very reliable. Now, the clip works really good. It does sit in the pocket very nicely, nice and deep. This does poke out. You can remove this, and that would be up to you if you want to remove it. It doesn't really bother me in my hand, even deploying it and using it like this. It really doesn't bother me. But I could see maybe some people being bothered with it, if they want to have this grip, because that's going to be pokey. I mean, you could use the clip in that sense, and kind of grip around the clip. But that's what'll be poking out of your pocket, though, is that. So when you sit down, it doesn't really, it never poked me. But, things that poke out the back of knives can, if you lift your knee up really high, this would be what it would be poking you in the hip, if it did. But like I said, it is removable. Now, all this jimping does work good, and you see the shape of it. It's like swelled in the right spot. Your fingers land in a lot of the jimping areas. You can use it in lots of different grips, for pull cuts, push cuts, slicing. So lots of good things here. This is a great OTF, standing for out the front. Now, what are some bad things? Well, one bad thing is, and 99.99% of all OTFs do this, but I still have to bring it up. you get a little bit of rattle. I think the only one is the G&G Hawk one with the deadlock. I think that's the only one that doesn't have any play, but this does. But now there's videos of these things being hammered through thick pieces of wood, you know, without failing. So I don't doubt that this thing's not very, very strong, even with all that play. You know, it's just an OTF. It needs room to go in and out. So when it's in there, you can see it in there a little bit. Maybe you can't, but it's in there. Let's hit a little light. Oh, my light's dead. Looks like I need to grab my other light. Luckily, I got lights everywhere. Now, it needs room to come out of this hole. But you can see down in there, the mechanism down in there, the locking mechanism. Now, in order for it to spring out and spring in every single time, it does need room. So, not that big of a deal. I do like that it takes a good amount of force because I do not want it going off in my pocket. But this button is very grippy, and I like that a lot. Now, there are other types of OTFs where the button's here and the button's here. I really don't know which one I like better. I feel like I like the side better, but, you know, I don't know. I think I like the side better than the front. I used to have a front, but without having them right here, comparing them, I can't say which one I like better. There's only a couple more things that I would consider. I don't know about bad, but the price is pretty expensive. These things are not cheap. These things are pretty damn expensive. They run upwards of like $400 up to $500 sometimes. I think the cheapest I seen was $325 or something like that. I forget exactly, but it was up there. Now, depending on the blade shape and everything, depends on the price and everything else, but they're not cheap. And this is aluminum. Aluminum tends to take wear. So if you use this as a user, expect scratches. Even with the DLC coating or whatever coating this is, it will eventually start scratching. Now, I didn't have any problems with it. It hasn't scratched for me, but this clip, it will eventually get scratched up. The DLC coating on the blade will get scratched up and the handle will get scratched up. And if you use this thing as a user, it will show. So I'm not saying it's bad because it's happened. I'm saying it's bad because it's gonna happen if you consider this or if you use this as a user. Now, I think for the price that they used, it would have been nice to have titanium. I know aluminum is nice and light, and with all the mechanism already in there, it keeps the weight down, but these things aren't heavy to begin with. I would have liked to have seen it in titanium, but you know, Microtech does a lot with aluminum, and they have great aluminum, so that's not really a bad. I'm just saying what I would have liked. I can't say that this is a bad because I don't know, but if I remove this, does the clip have to come off? Like, if that's the case, because that's the way it looks like if I want to remove this glass breaker, then the clip is going to come off. I'm not positive if that's the case, but it looks that way to me. So if I don't want the glass breaker, then I can't have the clip. Then I would have to, you know, carry it in, you know, something like this, you know, or some type of pouch on the hip. I'd rather have the clip on there, and I guess in the pocket it kind of just looks like a pen in your pocket. But, you know, I don't see no reason to take off the glass breaker anyways. I personally like it. You never know when you might need one. So I just, you know, if it is that way, I'd rather see it be a two-piece construction or something. Now, the next thing is the blade geometry could be a little bit better. I feel like for this price, I would have liked to have seen a hollow grind on here. I'm not the biggest fan of serrations. I do like them from time to time, But I can't call that a bad because they also have lots of different versions of this. So I'm not saying that that's a bad. But I would have liked to see a little bit better blade geometry, regardless if it's serrations, drop point, whatever blade shape. I would just like to see just a little bit better blade geometry. I'm not talking crazy thin, just a little bit. But in all, that's really all the bad things. I mean, I can't really come up with too much more. I think this thing's pretty awesome. I do like it a lot. It's one of my favorite OTFs. And yeah, I'm hoping to get some more on the channel. Thanks, guys. Peace.